multiple authors and having that ownership unlock, uh, let's say, royalties or rights to what can be done with that post. Maybe using post contributions or votes on posts as voting weight when it comes to decisions, for example. And maybe the platform itself can become co-owned by the people that write on it. I think that's a nice message, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time writing content on centralized platforms, but they don't own any of it, right? And they don't own any of the platform itself. Whereas if we were to build it on chain, we can make it so that the authors have a stake in the platform itself. And yeah, as I said, based on your contributions, you can vote on what happens to it. So kind of like a mini DAO within the blogging platform itself. Again, these are just ideas and reasons, not that we have to do everything, but it's just a why. So what we brainstormed last time is, whether the blog post should be NFTs. We kind of landed on the topic that yes, they should be, mainly for interoperability with the rest of the ecosystem. Not so much because they need to be NFTs. They actually don't need to be NFTs. But while we're at it, given that NFTs is really just a fancy term for anything that is unique, and a post by someone is something that is unique, then let's just make them NFTs. It has advantages of being able to be compatible with the NFT marketplaces, meaning we can add a monetization layer to all of the posts, as well as benefit from the metadata standards and royalties and all of that good stuff. And then we should also, we also brainstormed on what the name should be. We had a lot of great suggestions by a lot of the people here and more. I personally love all of them. Currently, the working title is Memento/Momento. Props to Lanford for the Memento typo. That actually is a cool suggestion. So yeah, but that doesn't have to be set in stone. We can decide the name together when we officially launch it. Lastly, we kind of covered the architecture, both from a app perspective. So, what does the core of the architecture look like? We have Cadence, we have JavaScript. What framework are we going to use? What DBs are we going to use? What does a app built on Flow could consist of? And then we started thinking about, okay, well, as we're building this, what should the smart contract look like? What should it be able to do? What are our data structures within the contract? And we had some really good ideas, really good contributions. So today we're really going to focus more on this section here. And then maybe the next episode we'll dedicate it completely to the smart contract. And then we're going to start putting things together. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to recapping what happened last time. And we had some goals for week one. This is the end of the year and everyone's a little busy, so we didn't really get to do any of this, honestly. But but having said that, we will create a minimal scaffold today, which we will be uploading to the repo. So if we consider last week as week 0, this is going to happen on week 1. So we're still going to be in time. Thank God for the programmer counting starting from 0, right?
Yep.
All right. Cool. So as I said, we are going to start from. See if I make this full screen. Okay, no. All right. Let me just switch the screen here. Change windows. Boom. Okay. All right. So, what the heck is Svelte?
Good
You
question.
can just go to svelte.dev, and this is where you'll learn all about this amazing framework. Svelte is nothing more than a UI framework to build yeah, components using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. The reason why Jacob and I both really like Svelte compared to React is React has, despite being the industry standard, React has this messy way of jamming CSS and HTML in the JavaScript. And it has a lot of abstractions that make it a little confusing for people new to the whole front end programming. So you need to know like what use effect and use state are. You need to deal with JSX, which is probably a big source of confusion anytime I write apps in Next.js or React. Half of my time is spent fighting with JSX. You have to use things like class name instead of class in your HTML. You have to delegate styles and import them using code. It's not great. And it's part of the reason why Tailwind CSS became so popular. It's because you can just stringify everything into utility classes and not have to deal with actually using CSS. So anyways, that was a bit of a brief aside. The good news about Svelte is it really stays true to the philosophy of the web, that the web is HTML. Like it or not, JavaScript came after, and HTML is the language of the web. So it makes sense for HTML to be the basic language. And then on top of it, just like you would on a vanilla HTML page, you can have a script tag and you can have a style tag. And within those, you have JavaScript and you have CSS. This keeps things very consistent with how the actual web works. And the reason why it's possible to do that and not have to use JSX is because Svelte is compiled. So once you finish building on Svelte and once you finish developing on Svelte and you build your app and you deploy it to production, which we will see how to do, everything gets compiled down to basically vanilla JavaScript and vanilla HTML and vanilla CSS, meaning there's no framework during runtime. You don't have to pay for any abstractions. You don't have to run React as the user is using the site. All right, enough about the shilling of Svelte. Let's look at how it works. If you're new to Svelte, I highly recommend you to go through the tutorial. I myself really like the examples. The examples, I think, do a really good job of explaining it. And what you'll love about Svelte is you will, just by going through these few examples, you will really understand how it works pretty much in 10 minutes.
I can confirm that, because when Andrea was showing me Svelte like a couple months ago, I went through the tutorials and examples, and it was like probably the most helpful tutorial I had seen on any website like ever. It was just so helpful.
Yeah. And part of the reason why it's so helpful and so easy to learn is because Svelte just gets out of the way, right? It really doesn't try to be a new language or a new way of doing things or trying to jam things together that shouldn't be jammed together. If you look at this page here, and let's ignore this syntax, but this is pretty much like a valid HTML page, right? You have a script tag and you have some HTML. Now, this is also a valid Svelte component file, meaning app.svelte, right? This is a valid file. And in regular HTML, what would we do to make hello red, right? We would open a style tag and we would probably style the h1 component and put a CSS style to it. And look, boom, it works just like it would in normal HTML. Now, the cool thing about Svelte is that it's more than just HTML, right? We can access variables within the HTML itself. So if we want to, put our name here, right, Andrea, we can put here name, and this will be read from from the context. So any variables declared at the component level here can be accessed in the throughout the component. All right, so we can start going through these bit by bit. We can just breeze through them. We kind of already saw how components, how attributes and variables can be referenced using this curly brace syntax, whether it's within the quotes of a component or within an actual attribute. We also have styling. The great thing about styles on Svelte is that they are scoped to the actual component. So here, right, so this is just the playground, right, where we can just experiment. But if we were to say my paragraph, right, and I do style, and I do h1 color green, but I should probably write green instead of red. And we do h1 hello, right? First of all, I have to import it. So as you would in our script tag, we import my paragraph from my paragraph.svelte. Okay. And you just reference the component like you would. Boom.
I think it looks right to me. Maybe.
Yeah. I think we have to just
Yeah.
change this. Yeah. Okay, my bad. Valid base URL.
Oh, because the import's wrong in app.svelte /M.
Oh yes, you're right. Okay, cool.
Boom.
Thank you. Extreme programming. Yay. All
Yay.
right. So if we were to change this to H1, right, and change this to H1, you'll see that the styles are scoped to the component. Even though we're referencing H1 here and H1 here, this H1 style only applies to this specific H1, and this H1 only applies to this specific H1 because it's within this component. This means that this means that you can easily style the native elements. You can also style classes if you want. You can do like class styled, no class name nonsense like in React, and you can change this to styled. Right? It supports basically all of CSS, so you don't have to learn a new language in order to know how to style things in Svelte.
Yep.
All right.
This was my favorite. I loved that part where like the styles were not bundled together. It's just made it so much easier to debug and like figure out where things are going wrong. Yeah, I just loved that.
Exactly. And sure, you can also embed HTML within the HTML in case, for example, you're loading some HTML from an API. Yeah, so here, like this could be like a fetch call, for example, right? And this returns some HTML, and you can just put it in raw within the component. Where Svelte gets interesting is the reactivity. As with any other framework, that is really the only reason why you want to use a UI framework, right? Is so you have reactivity and you have a way to easily change things on the DOM. Now, the cool thing about Svelte is that it uses, again, pretty simple syntax. So you have a lot of events like on click, and they're very similar to the events that you can have on, well, they are basically all of the events that you can have on the DOM. The syntax is on, colon, whatever the event is. So this could be on mouse move. It could be, if we choose this to on mouse move, I think it'll work. Yeah, see here, on mouse move, boom. Instead of on click or on mouse out, we would, okay. On mouse in maybe? No. On mouse in. Maybe that's not the right way to say that. I don't know all the events by heart.
On mouse out actually worked, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah. It went up when you did it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, this is just a warning. Oh, actually, one other really cool thing about Svelte is it has accessibility warnings built in. Sometimes they're annoying, but they're actually really useful. So here is, hey, for accessibility, on mouse out must be accompanied by a non-blur, right? Because some things will work on mouse out, but if you're on mobile, for example, you don't have a mouse. So you should have the same trigger if something loses focus, which is the on blur event. A similar thing that Svelte does is when you create an image, right? You do like example.com/image.jpg, like that. Another accessibility is should have an alt attribute because people who are visually impaired and you're using screen readers, if they just see this, if the screen reader only sees this, then they don't really know what's happening, right? Whereas if we put an alt attribute and say an example image, then the screen reader can show and say this part out loud to the person viewing the site. Um, and yeah, now it's just doing it's just parsing. We'll just call it example, so it doesn't complain. Yeah. The reason there was that other warning is because we had image in it, meaning that it was actually warning us that our alt text was not very useful because the screen reader will already say, hey, this is an image. So it doesn't make sense to put image here, as you can see in this warning. All right. Then you can have reactive things. Reactive variables are things that will be re-rendered in the DOM here anytime they're changed. So basically, the component will subscribe to these variables and change. And yeah, I think, and these reactive ones can also. So basically, this $colon can prefix a variable or it can prefix a statement, such as in this case, if count is greater than 10, then boom, you get an alert. You may not have seen it on the screen share, but it's there. And yeah, if here you can click, or sorry, here, reactive declarations, you'll see that once we increase these will all change together because these are reactive. Honestly, in Svelte, you don't really use these very much, mainly because if you architect your app the right way, the components will re-render anyways,
Yeah.
because you're either using stores, or which we will look at in just a second, or you are, or you're basically creating a new component anyways. But this is good to know if if you see something that's not updating when it should be updated, try putting it into a reactive declaration.
Yep.
Jacob, were you going to add something? Or
Oh no, yeah, no, I was gonna say, yeah, I actually noticed that I didn't end up using those too much inside of an app, but it is helpful when you're like logging something to the console and you like want
yeah,
to know, like you put like an if statement, you can like log to the console every time a variable changes, so that sometimes that's helpful, just if anyone is
exactly,
looking for a use case.
exactly. So here, let me do console log instead, since it's easier to see. See here, boom, count is dangerously high. Yeah, so this is really useful. I think where
Yeah, I think we can actually
where
skip. Oh wait, no, you
yeah,
you go, you go.
no.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think the other like super useful things that I don't know like where we'll get to it here, but are like the bind statements, like bind value. That was like so awesome. And then stores obviously.
Yeah, bind values, yes. So binding is a way to connect, is a two-way data bind, so you can connect an input or any form element, or actually anything, to some other attribute. So for example, the syntax is bind colon and whatever attribute of the element that you want to bind to, usually in an input field that is the value, and you can associate a variable to it, right? This will maintain a one-to-one mapping of the contents. So for example, here we have name, right? And you'll see that it updates once I write. The input of my input is changing, and so does the variable. Meaning that if you reference this variable anywhere else in another component, right, it will always be updated. So do his name is, right, and we can do boom, same thing. And the cool thing is that you can also do the opposite. So if the variable changes, it'll update the value in the input as well. This works for any form input, such as number, range, boom, boom, checkboxes, anything that you would usually need forms for, right? Text areas, file inputs, everything can be binded pretty much the same. So as you can see here, yeah, it's really just bind. And what bind does is it subscribes, it keeps in sync the variable with that attribute in both directions. Yes, I think we can. The other cool thing about Svelte is stores. So I think this is a little I think what we can do, if you all agree, is we can learn more about Svelte by actually building things with it. I think that's how I taught Jacob, right? It's like
Yeah.
just by building Float, you were just picking it up super quickly. So rather than focusing on these simple examples, which you can also look through yourself, let's take a look at Svelte Kit and then move to building it. So Svelte, again, is just this. A Svelte app is just a collection of files where files are like .svelte, right, instead of .jsx that you would have in React. And they contain some HTML, they can contain some styles, and they contain some JavaScript logic. But how do you take all of these individual Svelte components and build an app, a front-end app that has routing, so it has an index, and we can go to slash something, and it'll load the right page. How will it deal with, for example, server-side rendering? How will it deal with loading API calls in a way that it can be server-side or client-side? This is all done through SvelteKit. Nice, they have a nice new website for it.
Nice.
So, so SvelteKit is again the way to build, the recommended way to build a Svelte app, right? So yeah, I think rather than talk about it, let's just build something. So
I think one time you also mentioned that this is like the equivalent of Next.js wrapping around
yes,
React.
yes. So Next.js is the de facto app framework for React at the moment, right? It's an ever-changing landscape, but currently Next.js is the cool kid on the block that everyone's using. Uh, and basically, SvelteKit is the Next.js of Svelte. And you'll notice not only is it just as powerful, but it's a lot faster, and you'll get instant reload times. It's just a much better experience in general when you start building a Svelte app. So let's just build a basic app together, and we will yeah, get started. So let me rather than share, first of all, just checking. Okay, cool. Thanks, Jacob. I see you're chatting on the screen. If anyone has any questions, by the way, as we go, feel free to write them down. I will change windows and share my whole screen so that we don't need to keep switching back and forth. Okay, cool. Hello.
Hello.
All right. So I have Float open because we want to show you some, we might need to pick some stuff from Float. And let's just go out here and do git, let's just paste this command and we'll call this Memento, or let's call it Memento in honor of Lanford. So npm create svelte latest Memento. And this is, so yeah, it's asking us, hey, you want to install the following packages? Yes, please. All right. So we created a new app. Now we have to do some choices. This directory is not empty. Oh, I think I already created a Memento. Yes, continue. Because I was saving the Excalibur draw from last time.
Oh yeah.
We will do a, should we do a skeleton project or should we do a demo app?
Let's do a demo. We just always delete it.
Okay. Yes. So we will do an ML app and we will use nothing.
No.
We will not use ESLint, we will not use Prettier, and we will not use Playwright, and we will not use unit testing at the moment, just to keep things simple. And we are, oops. Sweet. And you see here it says, okay, cd into Memento, install your dependencies. Then this is optional if you want to git init, which we will do just in case we want, because we will be posting this to GitHub so everyone can contribute. Let's just wait for the dependencies to install. Paste that in. Okay. And last things first is npm run dev. You can also do something like this, I believe. Or something like that. Let's see what the exact syntax is. You don't really need it, but let's just do it. So what this does is it'll run npm run dev, so it'll run this app in a development mode, and then it'll open the window automatically. But you can just do npm run dev, and it'll work as well. Okay.
Wow.
Cool. So,
Svelte kit.
So this is our Svelte kit. Let me just make this clean. This is our Svelte kit demo app. Okay. Now, what you'll see here is simple counter. Okay, great. Nothing exciting. But when we click on about, you'll see that the URL changes. So we have routing that's working. That's awesome. And we have some pretty, we also have this Wordle now. So they added Wordle. So let's, how about we all play Wordle together?
Yeah.
Well, what was the most efficient word to start with? I don't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's just do.
Also, note by the way how fast that loaded when you did npm run dev.
Yes, and look how fast things change. Here, let me go. Let me get rid of this window. Okay, so when we go to, let's add a folder here. Edit. Selection file. Add folder to workspace. Memento. So here, you'll see this is the shape. So diagrams is what I added from last time. This is why it was warning me that the directory was not empty. But everything else was created by the Svelte demo app. So we have a source folder, which is where it contains all of the app logic. It has a static folder where we can contain all of any file put in static can be accessed at the root directory in the HTML. So you can do /favicon.png and it'll be accessible. So any static files will be put here. And then the source is where things get interesting, where you have the basic app HTML, right? This is where you can put HTML specific content for the whole app. So maybe a styles sheet that should apply to everyone, or the snow effect, right? Maybe yes. Actually let's add the snow effect.
Yes.
Yes. That's the
Let it
Snow.
snow.
So here we can just add the snow effect. Boom. And look, it's already raining. Sorry, snowing.
Nice. It's raining.
Yes. And yeah, so here you usually don't touch this app though. What you really want to touch is the routes folder. And you see we have an about route where we have the page and logic, right? So we have about this app. And if we change this, we do about this app something and save it. Boom, it already changed. Or, you know, yeah. So basically the way that routes work is every folder is a new route address. And within it, you have some special pages. You can have a layout, which determines what the look and feel. You can specify the layout template, and any JS file contains some JS code. So this is code that will be yeah. It contains some server logic, basically. We can probably see it here in the, yeah, see here at the page.server.js. I think the cool thing about the way that this is built, I haven't looked at this because this is pretty new, is I think they're trying to show how it works with server-side rendering and server-side calls. So yeah, you
And
can yeah, sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say like it's also like even easier than it looks. Like you could literally just add like a new page and call it like Andrea.Svelte and it would like make a whole new route just like right there for you.
Yes, that was the old
Oh, you're
way
doing a directory
of,
now?
yes. I believe you do. Because if we try to do, I think so one thing that you have to think that you have to realize about Svelte is that it's still being actively developed. It's nearing a final release, but it's still like quickly changing. And you used to be able to just have a Svelte, something like counter.svelte, right? And if you were to do slash counter, it would work, right? But now, to standardize it, every route here, so something here, needs to be a directory or a parameter. So you can do something like this. You can do something like, no, not in Svertal here. You can do a new folder. You can do something like, you know, I don't know, something, right? And and then if you have a page.js, this parameter will be filled in. So if someone writes anything but about and Svertle, it will go to this route, and this will be a wildcard. So yeah, I think really there's not much else to explain here. So the layout again is a way for you to style a lot of the same pages in the same way, and then you can, and the layout will be picked up, and then you can funnel through the contents of the actual page and pass it through here. So like a slot, right? So the layout is a special page that gets rendered before the actual page that you're trying to load. You can have layouts that are specific to a directory, or you can it'll default to the closest available layout. And yeah, the cool thing is that also you can use a normal CSS style sheet, which is pretty cool. And you'll see that in the layout, it gets imported like any other style sheet would be. So you're just working with regular CSS files. All right. Let's just play Wordle real quick. Let's do sweat. Okay. Stool. Okay.
Oh, wait, you're really good at this.
Still. Boom.
What? Wait, how did you that? Wait, you're good at this. Wait, that's actually really
Boom.
impressive.
Okay. Yeah, I actually impressed myself, but I think it's the stress of presenting, that your brain has to be overclocked.
Wait, if you play again, is it the same word or do they make a new one?
Let's see. Let's try sweat again. Oh.
Oh,
Uh,
different word. Can you run it
uh,
back?
uh, s- spelt? No. Uh,
Oh yeah, true. Andrea has the
Smelt.
dev tools open. Cheating.
I don't have DevTools open, as you can see from this terrible guess. Any suggestions here, guys?
I don't know. E and T? Oh, that like has to be in the word, but it's
Oh,
not.
but no, but they're in the wrong
Yeah,
position,
the
so it
wrong
could be
position.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Teams,
God.
teams, teams.
I don't think it does plural.
Oh. Oh, it doesn't? I didn't know that.
No. Um, Damn it. I should have just pretended I was a genius the first time when I got lucky. So, and here you see if you go to how to play, it goes to a new route, and that's because in this Virtual here we have another directory with a page.svelte, right? So the page.js has CSS, has logic that is also on the client, whereas something per page.server.js, this is only run on the server, and special functions like load are are available basically when a component is requested. So when this route is loaded, the server will run this function and will populate uh, this information in the actual client side, so you can have it. So anything that's server is private, and you can also implement HTTP HTTP requests like get, post, whatever, and on the client you can use them. There used to be able to, let's see, there used to be maybe this Wordle one. No. Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time going through the how Swirl works, but let's see if there's a, oh, there's words. Let's go to words. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
look at that. They have a ton.
See, I can't have, I can't have,
Wow.
um, yeah. Well, I think Wordle is probably now like a pretty famous and often copied in a lot of different frameworks type of app.
True.
So I think that's why they used it. It's a bit more complex than your typical to do item thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think as homework, for those of you who don't know anything about Svelte, what I would recommend is that you try to go through the svelte.dev examples. So here, svelte.dev examples. Go here, go to examples, and go through each one. I promise you that by the time you reach the last one, a lot of these are even like way too complex to that you probably don't even need them. But for example, all of the SVG ones, right? Like the animations are nice to have, but like all the SVG ones you probably don't need to have. But it just shows you how powerful Svelte can be when you want to use it to its fullest. So it's really, really good for visuals. It's really, really good for animating. Um, yeah, there's just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I would even go as
But
far as saying like if it looks complicated and it looks like you probably don't need to know it, then you probably don't need to know it. So just like
yeah,
focus on the stuff that like, you think you would
exactly,
need.
exactly. Um, but yeah, here I think the main thing to see is as we saw, the base route is here, and every route folder needs to have a plus page.svelte. And this page is what contains what will be loaded, the actual component that will be loaded. And this is what we're seeing right now. So if we were to change this. So we just stop editing, right? It'll show it here. And the counter, we're referencing this component here, which is right there. And yeah, I think it does it do, no, okay. I was wondering if it did like some server-side rendering, but this is just showing you how you can use svelte motion to animate the numbers going up and down like that. And yeah. All right.
Nice.
I think that's it for now. So what we can do, I know that we only have 10 minutes left for this episode, but hopefully I know that I covered a lot and maybe I covered a little bit too much and a little bit too little detail, but really the best way to learn it is to just try and build something simple with it and go through the examples. What I suggest that we do now is going from a sample app to going to a bare bones skeleton app that we can start with. So let me just delete everything. Let me delete the node. Well, we can keep that because we're going to need it anyways. Let me delete this. Let me stop this. And let me remove, I want to remove basically everything but diagrams. So node modules. Remove actually we can keep static. Okay, actually I think this is actually good. And we can restart a new svelte.kit. Let's just restart a new one here. Continue, and rather than demo app, we're going to do skeleton project. And again, we're going to do no. Okay, I'm going to repopulate it. Now, if we do npm run dev, oh, I think I need to. Yeah, I accidentally installed the npm install. Idiot. We do npm.
And then look how fast this is.
Yes. Boom. Boom.
Less than 1 second.
Less than 1 second, man. All right. Cool. So what does a bare bones one look like? You see that we have a very simple HTML. I believe we should add snow back at some point. We have our static again, and we have our routes with a single page, which is welcome to SvelteKit. Welcome to SvelteKit. Yes. Okay, cool. So this is officially the start of the Momento repo. Memento. This is going to look a little bit like Amazon looked back in 1995. You know, when it launched, it's going to look like terrible shit. But by the time we're finished, it'll hopefully look a lot nicer. And yeah, this is the basic piping. The next step that we need to do, and we can probably start with it, is getting FCL into this and having a simple connect wallet button people can connect their wallet to. And yeah, or we can focus more on the UI first of what Memento should have, right? Like what folders. Actually, we can actually do this here. Like, look, we can have, and I want everyone to participate here, but we can have like a create, right? And we can have, and this will be where people can create their like a text area and a button submit, right? And now if we go to create, boom, we have a text area and we can submit our posts. Then we probably also want a profile, right? For example, and the profile should probably be a parameter. right? So rather than have just slash profile, sure, it could load the currently logged in user, so we can definitely have that as well. But we should also have, like we have on Float, when you want to go to a specific user's profile, you would just go to memento.xyz slash something. So here we could do my profile. Okay. I hope you're getting the gist of how the routes work. And then another thing that is pretty useful is, and by the way, if you have SvelteKit, the VS Code extension installed, it'll help you. You have all these nice,
Nice.
yeah, things. So, for example, if we wanted to, I don't know if it. Let's try this. If we create a layout relative to current folder, we create a layout. Yeah, okay, sweet. It yeah, it does pre-fill with some basic stuff. Yeah, and then we also want to have a lib. Oops, not a file, but a folder. So lib is where we would usually store our components. So we go to lib, and I usually have a folder called components. And within that folder, you can structure them however you want, but in this case, we can, for example, have a header.svelte, right? And the cool thing is, we can reference this if in the routes we have a layout. We can do new file layout.svelte, or is it? Yeah, okay, perfect. We can do something like, so slot will mean that it will pass in anything that is put within. So in Svelte, if you have a component like this component, right? And if you have this inside, right? This will be passed in when you call this component, and you can access it by using slots. And this is the same way that the layout works. The layout is is basically a wrapper component, right? That it will pass in the actual page contents within it. So let me just show you rather than explain it. If we have here a nav, right? And yeah, nav. Actually, let me also install my favorite CSS, pico.css,
Here we
which
go.
will make things look a lot nicer. Yeah. Are you down for using Pico?
Yeah, yeah. See,
Just for the moment. It'll just make things easier here. We can do, I always forget, yeah, here, npm and Pico CSS. Pico. Okay. And in the app, in the layout here, we can do, we can do script import. I think it's this.
yeah.
I think it's this. Let's see if it worked. No. Oh, wait, that's doing it. Yes, it worked. Perfect. So the cool thing about Pico is that it has automatic dark and light theme, and it styles the base components a little better. So if we wanted to add a nav bar, for example, we go to layout, no, components, navs. You see it just uses semantic HTML rather than styles or utility classes like Tailwind uses. So here we would do memento, and we would do create, we would do profile, and actually let's make this create. This is nicer.
I think you wanted to put this header too, right? And then
Yes, yeah, this is the header. So like we could make this the header. So we're in the profile, right? And this is loaded and any component that we go to. So if we go here, Boom. Yes, but yes, what you were saying, Jacob, is right. Like we can put this in the header component. No. Wait, let's go back to layout. We can put this back in the header. And you'll see there's no scripts. There's no JavaScript and no CSS. That doesn't matter. A basic HTML fragment like this is a valid svelte component. And we can just reference it in the layout. We can import header, right? And here we can do header. Wait, no, this is wrong. Lib, never trust autocomplete components. Okay. This is a really cool thing that Svelte has. I don't know if others have it, but rather than having to use relative paths like, oh wait, what folder am I in? I have to do this and then this, right? You can just do /lib, which is a standard thing. You can also change this in your svelte.config. And then anywhere you are in your app, you can still reference an absolute path by using $lib. There's also $source. There's also $routes, I believe. It just makes it a lot easier. Components, header.svelte, boom. Now anything that so now you can see if we go to the home page, right, which is this one, it'll load Memento and visit svelte.dev to read the documentation, but it'll also load the header because it's part of our layout.svelte. We can, by the same reasoning, we can also have a footer, right? So we can do footer, and we can just do footer, and of course it doesn't exist yet, so let's create it, footer.svelte, and we can do like a very small p, right? This is just an example made by the wonderful people at Emerald City DAO. Boom, and maybe I just need to, yes, okay. And if we want to style this, right, we can just do style, and we can do p font size 0.3 and text decoration. Ooh, wavy. I've never tried that. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Hey, why doesn't that work? Anyways, okay, that's pretty much the basics of Svelte. We're gonna learn a lot more about it once we start building the individual components and we start piping things together. I did take a little longer than I expected. Sorry for that. I was hoping to just do like half hour of Svelte and then the other half hour of everything else, but yeah, we can use it. We can leave it for the next episode, and for the next episode, we'll do all about FCL, connecting it, and then starting to think about the cadence. Does that sound good, Jacob?
Absolutely. Yeah, like Andrea was saying, mostly just so sometimes when you're learning a new language, like help you get like kickstarted. So just to make sure you're not like lost when helping, Svelte, and also now that you know where to access like to learn Svelte. And I'll send the tutorials and examples in the chat here also. So yeah, next time we'll probably start with a little bit of cadence, the same way we did with Svelte. Just for those of you that don't know cadence too well, I'll probably be teaching you some very basic stuff. And then we'll try and integrate FCL, which is like the Flow client library that will allow us to run cadence from our DApp. So yeah, I guess we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Oh, and I think the reason I was stopping really quickly is because I had a back-to-back meeting, but that got canceled. So if people have questions and they want to stick around, I have a little bit of time.
Thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.